Chef, I love the shirt. The fact that we're matching. We're twins.
I mean, it's pretty much my uniform. So,
Is that all you wear, black?
I mean, it's mostly what I wear in the kitchen for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, and in life as well.
Do you still wear chef coats?
No, I have some of those. I probably won't blast the brand, but those like kind of chef wear / outerwear brand that's out of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I wear a lot of those.
Yeah. So
I like the sideways Hindley. I love that shirt.
I still like chef coats when I do happen to work in the kitchen. I still like chef coats, but sometimes when I go back in for like a day or two, it's like I just want to wear a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Like I used to be anti t-shirts, but now I'm like I kind of get it.
I'll wear a t-shirt in the kitchen prepping, but if I'm going to be like on the floor, service or an event, I'll wear something that is kind of like a chef coat. But I don't wear whites anymore.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of years with those starch whites,
right?
As did you.
So for the people that don't know, we were texting back and forth, and you sent me a photo. You sent me several photos. Yeah. But one of the photos that you had, it was like the big baggy white chef coat and the I don't know if it was the fish pants, right? Yeah. It's funny how much uniforms have changed the look of the chef. Mm-hmm. When you started cooking, like what was the chef uniform? How did cool chefs look when you started cooking?
Yeah, I mean, well, that had just those chili pepper fish pants, like that had just come out. Like chefware was just like blowing up, and that's what the people were buying. And then I remember very quickly after that, we decided those weren't cool. And then chefware had like the khaki colored chef pants, but they all had elastic band. And then white chef coats, and then the really cool kids all just wore dishwasher shirts.
Yeah,
because it was like buck the system a little bit. So I switched over to dishwasher shirt, but then when I was a chef, I mean, I was in restaurants where we wore whites.
Yeah. Man, I remember when those chili pepper pants came out. My executive chef at the time, he thought it was so cool. He had those chili pepper pants, and I used to think, man, one day I want to earn my chili pepper pants.
I know.
Right.
It's like for a lot of years, I thought the white dance goes were something to earn, but I haven't hit the ranks in the kitchen which I can wear white dance goes. But
yeah, I used to work at a place where we used to have to wear all white uniforms. Mm-hmm. So white shoes, white pants, white chef coat, white apron, everything, and when we would arrive to work, the chef would line us up. It was, the daily lineup, but it was to inspect our fingernails and to look us up and down to make sure we were clean. And if we weren't clean, go home. Then that's why it was all white, to make sure that we were all clean.
Yep, the days of, and I still do it, but having a nail brush and nail clippers in your knife roll, on the outside of your knife roll, of course, not touching the knives.
I used to have a shoe shine kit in my office. So when the chefs would come in and their shoes looked like they needed a little buff, the sous chefs would say, go to chef's office and go shine your shoes. So it was like the punishment. They knew, like, you're going to get sent to chef's office to shine your shoes. So when they'd show up to my office, and I'd say, I already knew. Like, it was like the inside thing. Like, can I help you? Yeah, I'm here to shine my shoes. Like, okay, shoe shine kit's there. I'm going to sit here and scold you for 10 minutes and teach you how to shine your shoes.
When I worked for Jean Georges, had a short stint in Texas, and I worked at that. I opened that restaurant. It was in Houston, and you could tell the people who were not prepared because they had razor rash, and they had razor rash because they were dry shaven in the locker room, because if you were not shaven when you showed up to work, you had to use the dry shitty razor.
The Bic.
Mm-hmm, the Bic in the locker room, and you'd be like, oh, razor rash. Oh, and I had it plenty myself, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I couldn't really grow facial hair until I was like 35. So
you had a very interesting career trajectory. So in Austin, Texas, you've been the chef of or worked at some of the best restaurants. Mm-hmm. You were part of Uchi in like the iconic Uchi, right? And I was thinking about this when I was driving over here, because I was like, man, so many great chefs came through Uchi in Austin or in Texas, really. I was thinking about you, Junior. I was at dinner with Junior the other day, Nick Yanis. I was like, man, so many great chefs have gone through there, right? It's like a who's who, Paul Key, right? Who's who of Texas and Austin chefs have gone through those kitchens.
Absolutely. I mean, even people like Val Cantu and like
really, I didn't realize he went through there.
Yeah. I'm actually trying to work on bringing him for dinner to do a little collab later this year. Kevin Tien, he was an Uchi guy, Uchiko. He's killing it right now. People nationally as well, but especially locally in Austin and in Texas. I mean, so many amazing chefs came through that restaurant. People who've won many, many awards and gotten recognition, but even just had successful restaurants. It was really cool. It was those formative, iconic years. I started year 2 into Uchi and was with them for over 10 years and really helped. Gratefully with the team, but we helped build Uchi into what it became, and then the last few years and what it is now, until it's sold into the millions and millions of dollars that it's worth
empire,
now.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's funny because I look at my career and there's been two, maybe three instances, 27-year career, but there's been about 2 or 3 instances where it's like, okay, this team and everyone from that team, like you feel it.
Yeah.
It's like lightning in a bottle. Like there's no way, all these all-stars should be in the same kitchen at the same time, and then they all go on and become executive chefs and run successful kitchens themselves. That's happened to me probably about twice in my career, like when it's like, and
I can name the 2 times in my career as well.
yeah. So Uchi, I'm assuming was that one time. What was the second time?
It was Bank Jean Georges. It was
Yeah.
when we did Bank in Houston, and that was in 2001. And so everybody from that next generation went through that kitchen. So anybody in Texas who wanted the New York City experience without having the ability to move to New York City to do that went to Bank Jean Georges. And so many people came out of that kitchen. I mean, I made lifelong friendships there, who went on to do amazing things, run their own restaurants,
Were you a pastry then?
That's pastry.
So for people that don't know, you started as a pastry chef.
I started as a pastry chef, yes.
Yeah. And tell
I still
people-
identify as a pastry chef.
You still identify as one. So tell people, right? Because a lot of people that listen to Chef's PSA, they're like, we need the pastry episode.
We do.
Right? So the first guest episode I had was Casey Duty, pastry chef, right? So I was like, I can't talk on pastries. Now, here's something that people don't know is I did start as a pastry cook, pastry chef.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, for my first few years in the kitchen were that. And then one day, someone called off on the line. And I was like, okay, I'll jump in. I don't know how to cook. And then I was like, I like this. This is cool. So I just stayed afterwards.
The energy's so different.
It was different. But when I was studying pastry, and it was different then, it was like cakes, right? It was like we had to make all these different cakes and, croquembouche. And I knew how to make the hell out of a tuile, right? It was like I was the junior and making simple syrups and sponge. And it was a poppy seed cake and this, that, and the other. But
Right.
From your standpoint, what were some of the difficult things of going from sweet to savory? That's question number one. And then why do you think that's important? Because I know you have a very specific reason why you wanted to go through some of those transitions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I knew pretty early on that I wanted to do pastry, and I actually had a family friend whose father was a pastry chef. And one thing that he told me was, he said, most pastry chefs today are garde who have gone to pastry. He said, really learn the science and the skill and the technique of baking. And when you can bake and then you transition into the restaurant pastry chef position or the restaurant pastry kitchen, you'll just have a much bigger bag of tricks. It won't be creme brulees and tuiles only, which are great, right? So I actually baked at Texas French Bread, Swedish Hill, Quack's 43rd Street Bakery, all these local Austin bakeries for 5 years before I even stepped foot in a restaurant. And then I went into a restaurant as the assistant pastry chef, and then quickly became the pastry chef of that entire restaurant group. And it worked. Having that knowledge, that like basic, essential, fundamental knowledge of baking far expanded every tool that I had, every trick in the book I was able to do. And then later on, when the science of cooking became something much more at the forefront, when you're talking about molecular gastronomy, et cetera, I had a much better understanding of that because I had really learned those basics. I also knew as a pastry chef, I had figured out pretty quickly that it was the most expendable job in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Right? When your business starts failing, when you start losing covers, when dessert sales start dropping and revenue slows down, pastry chef goes. And that is my experience. That is what I've seen.
Cut the pastry chef, put the creme brulee on the menu.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. You can order desserts. You can get ice creams from other places. You can get away with a scoop of ice cream, a splash of sherry, and a tuile. And guess what? You can make that in 10 minutes, literally. Yeah. So I learned everything in the restaurant. And plus my brain kind of works that way.
Which restaurant was this in?
So the first transition I made was to this restaurant called Granite Cafe. And that was part of the San Gabriel Restaurant Group, which later on, and I think you were probably in Dallas, it was Mezzaluna, Bitter Inn, Granite Cafe. And that was Reed Clemens, who now owns The Grove. that was like the restaurant group in Austin. And I became their executive pastry chef after about a year. But I went into that restaurant at Granite Cafe and was like, okay, I had seen how the pastry chef was treated. I had seen how much money the pastry chef was making. So I was like, I need to learn how to cook too. So I would jump on the line and I would work service and I would plate desserts and then I would work Grand Marché and then I would jump to the grill. And I did that for years. And then Jean-Luc's Bistro, where Sean Circule took over Jean-Luc's Bistro in 1999, and I was the pastry chef. He was the first, do you know Sean?
Yep.
Yeah, he was the first chef I worked for that was the real deal, who had a CIA grad who worked at some of the best restaurants in the country. And it was a very different thing. And he also told me, look, I can hire a sous chef that knows pastry or a pastry chef that can also kind of act as my sous chef. I said, I'm your guy. And I continued to work in that kitchen and learn every part of the restaurant. And he ran that restaurant.
Yeah.
He is the one person that I could see. I learned how to, or by emulating him and watching him, how to run a restaurant from the past. And I mean the whole restaurant.
Yeah.
And he was a pro at that.
Yeah. So one of the things that you touched on is going from understanding the basics of pastry, but also understanding the savory. So for savory chefs that are listening, if you had to give them some advice, because the reality is sometimes you got like 20-year vets or 15-year vets, they're not going to say, okay, yeah, I want to go back to pastry school.
Right.
What are some basic things that you think every savory chef should know and add to their toolbox?
Absolutely. I mean, bread. I mean, and it's a pretty basic thing, and something you can work on the line at home. It's quick. You do a mix, you do a proof, you do a bake, and really learning how that works and how you can and I know many savory chefs who are really just fascinated by bread and how bread works and sourdoughs and starters and whatnot. So I would say learn bread, get a bread book, get the bread Bible, something like that, and get some of the tartine books and really understand the baking of bread, because that really kind of puts your mind into a different place. Going back to me, my favorite, I get asked this question sometimes, I'm sure you do too, what's your favorite tool in the kitchen?
Yeah.
I have a real smart ass response, and I
What
say
is it?
my favorite tool in the kitchen is an egg.
Yeah.
Because you can do anything with eggs. Really master egg cookery. And egg cookery is not just cooking eggs at brunch. Egg cookery is learning why the yolks work the way they do, the whites works the way they do. Then you can learn meringues, brulees, custards, baked custards, and really understand all of that. Then you can do like chawanmushi and understand, and you can do it in savory and sweet applications. And those two things right there will expand everything that you can do significantly. But learning how to make a tuile out of anything is a great skill, because you can lose that. You said tuiles earlier, fully across the kitchen.
So you remember the old days when we used to wear the tall chef toques, right? And with all the different pleats, and they used to say like 101 different ways to cook an egg. So every chef pleat. And back in culinary school, like, make an omelet. By the way, I could make a good French omelet. I believe you. I could make a good French omelet. Like a lot of people talk shit. Was like, I see a lot of these videos because I spend a lot of time on social media and I watch these people like, oh, let me show you how to make a French omelet. Trash. Like, I can make a good French omelet, I think, because it's been a while. But
I continue to practice French omelets.
Even though I don't like brunch,
right.
I can still make a good French omelet.
I would have never guessed you don't like brunch.
Why? So let me ask you this, because I know you're a fan of brunch, and I'm traumatized by brunch, right?
You are.
So why are you such why this contrarian attitude towards brunch?
Well, I'm not maybe I am the contrarian. Maybe it's because I am a pastry chef and I worked early in the morning. Maybe it's because having a love for savory cooking and a love for sweet cooking, brunch is the perfect place to meld those things.
Yeah.
Right? Anything from pancakes to French toast, which is a bread that you bake that's then soaked in a custard that you make, right? And then cooked on a stovetop. Again, egg cookery is my favorite. So the multiple applications of egg that you can put on. What other menu can you take one ingredient and put on a menu 15 different ways? Right? Like, it's amazing. It's scientific. It's fun. I like being up early.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I would clope in. I would fucking close the kitchen down on a Saturday and come make brunch on, were we 7 minutes in?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
You're good. We're 18.
All right.
Yeah.
I would close the kitchen and then come work brunch the next day, and I was fine with it. Sometimes I was still drunk, You made that comment the other day, and that's absolutely true. I mean, that's a lot of it is like you work Saturday night, and you're like, who wants to go to brunch tomorrow morning? But I love brunch. I love the science of it, cooking the eggs and then combining. It's the best place to combine the savory and the sweet. But I got to ask you, Chef, and this is what I really wanted to ask you.
Sure.
This is the reason I decided to come on the PSA podcast is who hurt you at brunch?
So I'll tell you. So this is like, because I was like, man, I know I'm going to get grilled on brunch. So I started thinking about like, where's my trauma? And I sat down and I took some ayahuasca. No, I'm kidding.
And we went down.
Yeah, I went down. I connected with the brunch snake. All joking aside, when I was a hotel chef, early on in my career, is like Christmas brunch, Thanksgiving brunch, Easter brunch. Every single major holiday when I wanted to not be at work, we had to open. We were the only ones open. So not only were we open, but it was the busiest time. It's not like we were going to get out early and to go spend Christmas with our family or anything like that. It's like, nope, you're going to be here all night on Christmas Eve. You're going to be prepping. You're going to be here all night on the 23rd because prepping. And you're going to work Christmas Day, and then you're going to go home after celebrations have happened. And that wasn't just Christmas. It was all the holidays. So that was part one. Part two is it seemed like in every independent restaurant that I've been a part of, when brunch was introduced, it was always, I don't want to say it was like the beginning of the end, but it was like, okay, so can I get more cooks? Nope, do it with the ones that you have. So we'd have to pull cooks off Friday night. Friday night service is our biggest night. We're going to pull them off. We're going to put them on prepping brunch because you have, yes, there's a lot of eggs, like you said, and French toast and this, that, there, but there was also a lot of sauce work and things that go into that. And it's like, okay, so I'm going to pull off some cooks. And now Friday night service suffers. And then Saturday and Sunday brunch, when it rolled around, it was just chaos and busy, and the kitchen's dirtier, and you have these fine dining cooks that are, the towel folding is out the window, and put your tweezers away, just use a spatula, like just use a burger spat, right? Like the rules are out the window, and it was chaotic. Now I will say, like, I do enjoy brunch in terms of writing the menu. I love writing a brunch menu. I love creating that food. I just hated working brunch service. It was like Saturday was like the end of the week, roughest service, good or bad, right? It could have been a great service too. I'm tired. I want to sleep in late the next day. It's like, nope, wake up early, go to brunch. And this is a different time. So for people that are listening, this is a different time, but it's like you show up to brunch. As soon as I walked in, chef, would you like coffee or a Bloody Mary? I was like, Bloody Mary today. Let's get the brunch service going.
I mean, I definitely had been part of kitchens where shots were lined up on the brunch, the brunch clock in table, because that was what was necessary, or so we thought. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's Saturday. When you do Saturday, Sunday brunch, I think that doing just a Sunday brunch is hard because then you're creating a whole menu for one day. So when you do Saturday and Sunday brunch, then you are able to create things. You do prep, and you and I both know that doing 100% more prep takes 25% more of the time if you're doing it all at once, right?
Yeah.
So you can prep for 2 days. You have a better chance of utilizing all the product. You don't have to throw stuff away. So Saturday, Sunday brunch is always a better option, in my opinion. But you're right. Like you pull the Friday night cooks, and then they open Saturday, and then that transition from Saturday brunch service to Saturday night service.
Yeah.
Is chaos.
And isn't the kitchen just dirtier?
Yeah, it's just chaos.
Like
it is
there's
chaos.
there's broken eggs. Like there's never even eggs in this kitchen. Why is there eggshells in the corner, like kicked under the lowboy?
Touche. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But there's some part of us that like thrives in that too a little bit.
But look,
some of us.
if you're cooking brunch, I'm going.
Yeah.
Like if you're cooking out there, like if I'll go to a restaurant and enjoy brunch. Like, you know what? I'm sorry you guys have to go through this, but I'm gonna order some enmoladas or whatever you have on the menu, some chilaquiles. And thank you very much. And I'm sorry you had to work, but thank you for the eggs.
For sure. We have a mutual friend that came in and helped celebrate the 5-year anniversary of Comedor Alan.
Yeah.
And we cooked brunch together. And I wasn't planning on cooking brunch that morning. However, the cooks we didn't have brunch cooks anymore because we stopped doing brunch service.
Yep.
As much as I love it, it didn't make sense for us in the current climate. So we stopped doing brunch service. So none of our cooks were brunch trained. A couple of our chefs were from, because we've had chefs with us from day one, but none of our cooks were. So Alon comes in, we write this menu. It's a super fun menu. We get all the prep done ourselves as to not disturb service. And then Sunday morning comes, we're like, let's go. We're excited. We're going to be on the floor. We have friends coming in. We're going to show the cooks how to do a couple of things and then get on the floor and just bullshit and be silly like we always are. And within the first 5 minutes, it was very clear to everyone that I was working the pancake station. Yeah. And I worked the pancake station for 4 fucking hours and flipped more pancakes than I think I have my entire career. It was busy. And it was just so funny because that shit happens. You go into brunch and you're stuck there and you're like, okay, well, I'm either making French omelets because there's only a handful of people who can do great omelets,
right,
or I'm flipping pancakes or I'm doing this. So
yeah.
But it was fun. I had fun.
Don't get me wrong. I enjoy brunch food.
Yes.
It's one of those menus that I really like. If you said write a brunch menu, I'm like, I'm in.
Uh-huh.
Like for anyone that's listening that's looking for consulting for brunch menus, I'll write them for you. I'm not going to show up one day. Don't ask me to work those right, brunch services, but I do enjoy writing menus with eggs. Like egg dishes, honestly, some of my favorites.
Super fun.
Yeah. I love them.
Yeah.
So I do want to ask you this. When you look at your career as a pastry chef, and there's a fine line between art and craft, right?
Absolutely.
Where do you differ? Is it all art? Is it all craft? Is it a combination of both? Is it science? Right? So have you seen this meme? It's like a chef is a scientist, an accountant. You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah. A psychiatrist, a teacher.
Yeah.
Father.
I saw that meme, and I got to be honest with you. The first time I saw it, it kind of annoyed me. And so I created a counter meme to it. It's like a chef is all those things, but are they still a cook? Like at what point do you just say, no, I'm just a cook, right? Yeah. And I meant that just kind of sarcastically. I do get it. You have to do all those things. But when you think about what a pastry chef is and what a chef is, yes, you have to wear all those hats. But where is that fine line between art, craft, science, cook?
Well, to me, art and craft run hand in hand. And not to draw from somewhere else, but I said this recently, and this is something that one of my favorite artists and writers, and he doesn't even really consider himself an artist in the way that we see artists, but Rick Rubin talks about, anything that's created is art.
Yeah.
Anything that is, and anything that you have, if something has inspired you enough to create something, you are creating art. You are creating something in the world that is artistic, that didn't exist before. And so call it a craft, call it art, whatever it may be, creation is that.
Yeah.
And I love that, and I love every aspect of it. You should be able, as a great chef, you should be able to not only create great dishes and be artistic on that front, you should also be able to execute those. And I think that that's where we get into the craftsmanship of it. It's like, cool, I created this, but now can I make it again? And then can I make it throughout service? And then can I make it throughout the week? And then can I show you how to make it?
Right.
And then can I show you how to make it in a way where I know you're going to make it correctly, and I know that I can go home. I mean, how hard is that? As someone who's been a chef for almost 30 years, or was a chef for 30 years because you're retired now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Teach your staff to create, to execute your creation many, many times over the course of weeks or months, depending on how often you change your menu, and know that the craftsmanship is going to remain consistent and within the integrity of which you created it. And I think that is the really hard part of this job. We can create things, and if it's true that everything created is art, well, some art probably tastes bad, right? So you have to create something that a guest is going to want to come in and order more than once, because they're going to have it the first time and say, "Oh, I want that again," and not have it one time and be like, "I never want to have that again," because then you don't. Then, and especially how restaurants are today. If I'm not impressing you when the minute you walk in the door, I'm probably not getting you back into my business. And so as a business owner, a chef, a technician, a craftsman, an artist, all of those things have to matter. And if they don't matter to you, you're going to lose a part of the business. And eventually that business, I think, will not work out.
So you could say it's all art, it's not all good art.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. It all falls.
Well, it's all subjective.
Yeah. Right. Sure.
Right. I mean, it truly is. I mean, of course, there are some things that are a train wreck, but I mean,
to someone,
to
the creator, it's not.
Right. It's all subjective.
Yeah. So to the creator and their mom and their family, oh my God, those are the most amazing pink enchiladas I've ever had, right?
Right, exactly.
But there's levels to the appreciation of art. You see the technique, you see the complexity. You saw this piece of art that's like a banana taped to a with a piece of tape. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
I don't know who made it, but I remember it was like controversial because I did art. I made art. I put a Sharpie up. And I taped it with blue tape, and I put it on the wall, and I took a photo of it, and I tried to sell it as an NFT during the NFT craze. I was like, here's my art. Okay. It's a Sharpie, right? Speaking of art.
Did it sell?
No, anyone wants to buy it, like DM me. It's only 3 Bitcoin.
Okay, perfect.
That's it. It's not too bad. When you think about art, and you've created a ton of dishes. Mm-hmm. When you think about like, okay, what are the best 3? Like if you had to name 3 of your most memorable desserts that you've ever made, and by the way, I think of one. We were in Dallas. You made the it was like a tamal, banana tamal.
Tamal, yeah.
It's fucking good.
Thank you.
Like it was one of the best desserts I've ever had, and I remember you saying I'd been working on it for a while, and I was like, yeah, I tried. I was like, I remember for those people that are listening that don't know, we did a dinner in Dallas at Jose Restaurant, and Philip had the dessert course. You're up last. There's a little bit extra. And every single guest chef that was there, myself included, we just sat around and like, fuck, this is good. It was one of those desserts of like, damn, that's a banger. I'll tell you, I was like, I know I don't have a restaurant, but how can I steal this? Right? Like I was thinking,
I'll share it with you, chef.
It was so good. It was so good. It was really good.
Thank you. I do want to say I actually did 2 courses in that dinner. I also did the first course. So.
You did this.
It was delicious too.
Yeah.
Not as memorable.
I remember the.
No. I mean, look. How telling is that, right? Like, what is I did 2 courses that dinner. The dinner was excellent. Everybody's course was great. The memorable course was the dessert that I made. I mean, I think that's a little bit telling of how I look at food. So, do you want me to name what I think those desserts are?
Yeah, tell me your top 3. Tell me your top 3.
Okay. I don't want this to be controversial.
No controversy.
But I created the fried milk.
What do you mean you created the fried milk?
I created the fried milk dessert at Uchi.
You created the fried milk.
I did.
All right, tell me.
So, that dessert has become Uchi's only signature dessert.
Still on the menu.
Past 17 years.
Oh.
It's been on the menu 17 years.
Is it in the book?
It's
in the Uchi book?
It's in the Uchi book, and it's also on Beyonce's cover page of her website.
Really?
Beyonce.com, I assume. And
shout out to Beyonce.
I know. Shout out to the Uchi restaurant's pastry chef.
Yeah.
Who has put her hand on that dessert, and it's wonderful. And she's one of the most incredible pastry chefs ever. Mm-hmm. I really, truly, truly believe that. And I feel bad that she hasn't continued to make a dessert that's not hers. But that is probably the number one most popular, most thought about dessert. Now, all 3 of them are going to be Uchi desserts, because I spent the majority of my career in that one place. The other parts of my career I kind of bounced. I mean, Comedor has been 5 years now. I've been working on it for 6.
Did you put the tamal on the Comedor menu?
No, I did not. No. I put the tobacco cream, and that was a really memorable dessert for a lot of people. And it was one of those desserts that was like, they loved it or they hated it, and it was very polarizing. Mm-hmm. And that was a very memorable, and I have people today literally stop me sometimes on the street and say, hey, I know who you are, and you created this dessert, and it blew my mind, but like my husband hated it. I'm like, yep, that was the response I always got from that dessert. And then to me, the one that is the most important to me was also an Uchi dessert, and it was on the menu for like 15 years, and it was the peanut butter semifreddo. And that was peanut butter semifreddo with an apple miso sorbet with sake rehydrated raisins, apple chips. It's a beautiful dessert.
I love that dessert, by the way.
Thank you. And that one is it means so much to me for multiple reasons. It's the first dessert that I felt like was the truly, truly cohesive artistic offering that I had that made sense, that was thought out, and it was inspired by my daughter. So like that it hit me on so many levels, and it was in all of the restaurants for a really long time.
Right.
So I would say those 3 desserts are the top 3 desserts. Recently, Uchiko started doing a fried milk ice cream, and just in case you were curious, I get no residuals from that.
You should. What's up with that?
I asked Ty, I was like, can I get like 1%?
1%. That's
1%. That's all I want.
How is that too much to ask these days?
That's not too much to ask. I'd say those are my top 3 desserts, and if that's any reflection of like how important that time at Uchi was to me,
Yeah.
with Tyson, with that whole crew, with Paul, with Yoshi, with all of those amazing, incredible chefs. It's that is a true reflection of that.
It's interesting that you say that, because that's lightning in a bottle. Like we're talking about, like so many great chefs came out of Uchi during that time. I forgot about Yoshi as well, right? But not only did so many great chefs, but iconic dishes. And so here's something that you don't know, and I'll share a dessert story with you, but I'll also share some praise. Those 3 desserts during that time. So I want to say this was maybe like 2010, 2012-ish. You were still at Uchi as pastry?
Yeah.
I remember I came down to Uchi and I was trying all the desserts, and at that time I had the Uchi cookbook. I was like, I was blown away by the desserts. I was like, your desserts at that point in time, at that snapshot in time, your desserts were arguably some of the greatest in the country, right? Because I was in Chicago, I was in California, I was eating at all these Michelin star restaurants, trying to create one of the best restaurants for myself in Dallas. And I remember when I ate at Uchi, I was like, these are the best desserts of all the restaurants that I've been to across the country. And I remember wanting to create my own great dessert. So this is the story. Up the street from where we had our restaurant in Highland Park Village in Dallas, there was a Tom Ford. There might still be a Tom Ford store over there, right? And I'm a cologne snob. I probably wear too much. But I really enjoy Tom Ford cologne, and I really enjoy his tobacco vanille. Right? So I was like, the store was opening, the restaurant's here. I wanted to get his attention because I was like, I want some free cologne and maybe a bespoke suit or something. Like, how do I get his attention? Let me create for their grand opening a tobacco vanille dessert.
Holy shit, yeah.
Right? And I was like, fuck, I don't know how to cook with tobacco though. At that point in time, like Google is not that savvy with recipes. There's not a lot of cookbooks out there. But then I found your tobacco cream recipe in the Uchi book.
Yeah.
Right? And I think Alinea has one as well, a tobacco recipe, a tobacco cream also in the Alinea book, I think. Yeah. So I was looking at different iterations, and I was like, how do I make this? So I was bringing my cigar, because I smoke a ton of cigars, right? So I'm bringing my cigars from home, giving them to my pastries, like, figure this out. I want, tobacco vanille, blah, blah, blah. We made a poor rendition. This was like 2012. We made a poor rendition of a tobacco vanille dessert. Didn't come out great. Years later, because I had this idea, like, how do we execute a great tobacco and vanilla dessert? So Tom Ford is staying, and I told my pastry chef to create these tobacco and vanilla bonbons for him. They came out great. Gangster, right? So perfect. We sent him up to the room,
Sounds so good.
handwritten note. I've been working on this dessert for X amount. I'm hoping that, like, he's going to say, thank you so much. By the way, I'd like to meet you. Here's whatever, right? Been a fan for nothing. Not even a thank you, right?
Man.
I was so pissed. But we ended up putting not Tom Ford, but a tobacco vanilla dessert on the Garrison menu.
Oh shit.
It was beautiful. It was on a golden Bernadotte plate. I don't remember everything. It was like 10x vanilla bean ice cream and tonka bean and tobacco cremo, whatever. And then the pandemic hit. We closed. We had it on the menu for like a week.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah.
I would have made waves.
Yeah. And I was like, this
I
is
would
it.
have come just to try that.
It was like, I was like, this is it. This is going to fucking knock everyone's socks off. The news came. I can't remember which news station they came and did a little feature on that one dessert. I was like, this is it. This is my,
Yeah.
even though I didn't fucking make any of it, right?
Yeah.
My pastry chef did. It was like, it's my idea though. And then it was gone, pandemic. But yeah, so long story short is you were a big part of that inspiration there.
Oh, thank you.
So FYI.
I appreciate that.
Full circle.
That means so much. And to hear those stories, and that time at Uchi, again, and I talk about it so much, and it was so formative. It was formative for the brand and the company, but it's so formative for us as the cooks and the chefs. And as you see, went on to do, many of us went on to do other great things. But during that time, when you said thank you, that said there's some of the best, if not the best, some of the best desserts in the country. Of course, me being the generally pretty humble person I am, would argue that, be like, no, this person was making amazing stuff. I was inspired by Stupak. I was inspired by Jordan Kahn. Sam Mason was the greatest space chef that ever lived. These things, and I do want to say Tobacco Cream predates Alinea book release, just so everyone knows. But I got four James Beard nominations in that time.
Yeah.
So other people were looking at it too, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And award systems are crazy. And when you were young in it and you're getting the recognition, it's the most important thing.
Yep.
As you get a little bit of space from it, it changes.
Right.
But you do see that people are looking at what you're creating on a national level, and that feels amazing.
Yeah. So I want to say two things. One, the Michelin Guide is coming to Texas. And there's conversations that we could have on the podcast, and then I've had a ton of conversations that people say off record, right? The other day I was at dinner with Junior Borges. We were, I won't say which restaurant, but
I know which restaurant you were at.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you already hear the story?
No.
Oh. But I'm 99% certain we sat next to a Michelin inspector. And it's funny because I was texting with the chef there. I said, hey, by the way, I think we sat next to a Michelin inspector. He's like, haha, you would say that. I was like, no.
Right, you would.
I'm serious. I'm serious. And he looked at the reservation, and the person was there for like 2 hours. They ordered coffee at the end. They sat there with coffee, listening to Junior and I talk bitch, right? And so I'm noticing that this guy.
Were you bitching about Michelin?
Of course we were.
Of course you were.
Of course we were, right? We were bitching about.
I need to text the chef and see what that name was.
Yeah. Oh, this is the kicker. There was no name and no phone number. Right? So there was no name, no phone number. They were there for almost 2 hours, and I was watching them. Once I picked up on the fact that they seemed very interested in our conversation, I'm watching them, and I'm looking at their phone, and it's nothing but food pictures that he's scrolling through. And I'm like, that's a lot of food pictures for a non-chef, right? Because he might have been a chef, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't. And then when he was leaving, maybe he's listening to this, because I noticed him try and take a photograph of me and Junior. Sure. And I looked at him, like I caught it out of the corner of my eye, and I glanced, and then he quickly, oh no, I'm just taking a video of the restaurant. But I was like, who was this guy? So I'm almost certain it was a Michelin inspector. But anyway, with Michelin coming to Texas, what are your predictions that you feel comfortable making?
Okay, cool. First and foremost, as someone who's been a chef in Texas for 30 years, and I am still running a restaurant, right? Like I am still in it. I could not be more excited that Texas is finally. I am one of the naysayers for many, because I wasn't in Dallas and I spent a little time in Houston, but I'm one of the naysayers who was like, Texas will never get a Michelin recognition. We'll never have Michelin inspectors because we don't have that. Not only do we not have that status, we really don't have that stature of restaurant for the most part.
Right.
Of the 11,000 restaurants in Austin and the 27,000 restaurants in Houston and the et cetera, over the five largest cities in Texas, the percentage of restaurants that would even hit that radar, I think, are much, much, much lower than anybody thinks. However, it is still really exciting, and it gives us an opportunity to think about that and to step the game up. Yeah. And I truly believe that. And I think that the award system should be a system that inspires us to be better. That's really the only way we should use it, right? Because it exists. And it brings back the focus to restaurants on the merits rather than restaurants. And I know that they are often very, very valuable for business, and I appreciate what some of the influencers do for different businesses in our society, restaurants included. Sure. But it brings it back to a different merit base that I think is important, that I think we've really, really gotten away from. And I am really looking forward to see what some of the recognition is. I heard you say it's forever on Instagram. So oh no, it was on stories. It's not forever on Instagram. Yeah. I heard you say that a lot of feelings are going to be hurt. That there's probably a much smaller percentage of restaurants that we recognize and we're thinking that will be. And I do agree with that. I think that, and it's funny, the day that news came out, I mean, my inbox on my social media, my text messages were blowing up. Well, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about this? Because I have been a chef in Austin for a really long time. So I think people are curious how I feel. And I gave them the sentiments that I just shared with you. But I said similar things like, y'all, I don't think it's going to, people are sending me influencer lists. I think these restaurants, these Michelin people mispronouncing Michelin are going to pick these restaurants as the best restaurant, naming like fucking.
These guys will for sure get 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, oh, come on, right?
Yeah.
It further emphasizes the complete disconnect of what food media is today versus what it has been for generations,
Right.
right? I would say hundreds of years. That's an exaggeration, but for a long time, for decades. And I'm excited about that because I think running a restaurant, I think everybody who creates art and creates food and tells stories through food deserves recognition and celebration. I think that there are specific merits that some businesses, some monikers we try to hit that I love being recognized for that not everyone can do or not everyone will do. And I think that Michelin's going to do that. It's going to check some of those boxes, and it's going to go back into these buildings that are amazingly built to be a restaurant. The people who spend the time and resource on the right plateware and the right glassware and the right products and running an energy efficient restaurant and having a sustainable food program and having sustainable culture, all of those come into play. And that we get away from that a little bit today.
And the fact that Michelin has kind of expanded the way that they recognize restaurants, so it's no longer just 1, 2, and 3 stars. It's the Green Star, it's the Bib Gourmand.
Right.
So now there's multiple opportunities to give recognition of very good restaurants without saying that, hey, these are very good restaurants, but this is like best in class.
Right.
That distinction.
Now we can recognize, and Michelin can recognize food trucks and stalls, and which are important, and which these stories need to be told, and I am here for them, right? But it can also recognize like this is a restaurant.
Yeah. Do you think?
I think that's important, and I know it's a kind of an unpopular opinion.
No,
and I think it's really important to say.
Do you think, because Mexico City Michelin Guide came out, and then a taco shop gets a star, right? Do you think that opens up the door for a barbecue spot in Texas?
Potentially. Potentially.
Yeah.
I can't say no.
No. I mean,
I remember.
Would you be shocked?
I remember when Koji Truck. Sorry. I remember when a food truck won Best Restaurant. It was on the cover of Bon App. I mean,
yeah.
That was pivotal, right? And that food editor lives here in Austin, and he's great, right?
Right.
That was pivotal. That changed. That is the moment that pretty much everything fucking changed with the way that restaurants were recognized. And it was. I think there was some necessity there that it needed to be looked at very differently. And I think that we should still look at restaurants as restaurants too. I think it can coexist, and I think it needs to, and I think those merit systems need to be really clear if they're going to exist, or just take them away, and just everyone gets a bib.
Well, yeah. Well, I think it'll be interesting because I think what I had said on Instagram was that I think what we're going to end up with is most likely a lot of hurt feelings and bruised egos. Because I don't think there's as many starred restaurants in Texas as people think, in my opinion. I don't think there's any 2s, and I don't think there's any 3s. Actually, I take that back. I think if there's a 2, there's a restaurant in Houston that I'm not too familiar with, but I've seen enough photos of the place to say, okay, that kind of looks like it could be a 2, is March in Houston. Outside of that, I think we got a lot of 1s.
I think there are potentially a lot of great 1s, a lot of bibs. And I think that the chefs that I know in Texas who are potentially hoping to get some recognition there, I don't see a lot of bruised egos. No. I think that a lot of the people, at least in our generation, kind of think about it the same way. They know. Yeah, I agree.
But I think what I'm starting to realize, and at least this is maybe just me, is I keep up with my friend group of chefs.
Yeah, we're in a bubble.
Right?
Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Well, and then I realized, like, I'm at dinner with some friends the other day, and they're talking about this chef and that chef, and I'm like, who are these people? I've never heard of them. They're like, oh, they used to be this. So I used to be the sous chef of someone who was the sous chef of someone, and now the sous chef of me has a sous chef who is now someone, if that makes sense. Yeah, so like it's almost 2 chef generations removed. My former cooks are now executive chefs, if that makes sense. And that means your former cooks are now executive chefs, and Junior's former cooks, and Stephen Pyle's former cooks are now executive chefs. So when I look at that, it's like, I don't know who they are.
Would Meridian have gotten 2 stars?
Yeah, I don't know if they would have gotten 2, but I think Meridian with Junior there probably would have gotten 1.
Absolutely 1.
Yeah.
I think 0 doubt. And if not, they're wrong.
Yeah.
They were wrong.
They were wrong.
I don't know about today. I haven't been. But when Junior was there, I think potentially it could have earned 2 stars.
I think Meridian would have gotten 1. I think Michelin in San Antonio gets 1. I think, right? I don't want to curse them. I'm gonna knock on wood. I think I don't know Houston that well.
There are some 1 stars in Houston, I believe.
But I know Aaron, and I know he knows how to get a star.
Absolutely.
Right? So I would give it to him.
I hope that Ugo would get the recognition.
Yep.
I think that Sochi could definitely get it.
In Austin, I don't know because I have a lot of friends here, so I'm gonna like.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. I can think of some places who I think potentially should get the recognition that may not. And I think those chefs, I don't think their egos will be hurt. I think that they might just, I don't want to say try harder. That is very dismissive of everyone's effort to run a fucking business every day, which is so hard.
Yeah.
But they would try different.
It's a hard business. This is a hard business to be profitable, have longevity, and to create a great experience. You know this, right? So you go into a restaurant when it opens, it's not the best. You give it some time and it's like really good. They've hit their stride. And then they get very busy and then you go back and it's not as good as it was like kind of in the middle, right? Right now they're just busy, right? They've turned over, the best staff has now gone on to do good things, right?
They're sous chef,
that lightning in a bottle, like we were talking about earlier. And I think it's really interesting. Like I'm retired, and I say that I have no desire to go back in the kitchen, but for a unicorn I would. And so I put that out there to say, like, okay, if someone would come to me and say, hey, we want to get a Michelin star, do you want to jump back in? Yeah. I don't want to do it for the money. I'm at the point in my life where it's just I want hero side quests. That's it, right? I just want to do fun shit. I would do that, but I think for someone to present that unicorn, it's like, man, those you're getting into this knowing that you might not make any money because we got to get the best china. We got to buy expensive stemware. We got to hire a great somm, a great a dining room manager, a great pastry chef, great chef de cuisine. All this other shit that goes into it. It's like, hey, and we might not even get a star at the end of it. Like we might put all this money into this and create this great restaurant. No one may show up and we might get 0 stars.
Yeah, you may not even have someone come through the door.
Right.
And from what I understand, Michelin is guaranteed to come to Texas for the next 3 years, and they may not come again after that.
Right.
Right. So, year one could be like, hey, y'all, we're here. We're here. Mm-hmm. This is the turnout. Year two could be very different.
Yeah.
If you have a class of chefs and restaurateurs and business partners and everything involved who want that and who will work for it. Like you said, you would love to jump in and work for it. You have to have for the most part, if you're not hitting it year one and you're wanting to get it 1-2, you're going to work for it. Yeah. You're going to have to change the things that you do to get it. And you've got to want to do that.
If you get a bib, right, that means they noticed you.
Yes.
Right? That means you could get one if you got a bib, you're on our radar, right? You get one, and it's like that carrot that's being dangled in front of a chef, like, hey, do you want to push for 2?
Yeah.
Like, do you talk to the owners? Can we get more money? Can we put some money into this? I don't know. It's a fun game, and I'm excited because there's never been a more exciting time to be a chef in Texas, I feel, than right now, because it's about to get really interesting.
It is, and there's a lot, and like you said, there's so many generations that are coming up now that are so good, and they've learned so much. A few things one with Austin, I just feel like we're a little bit shy of the service aspect, and I think that's going to be the food is there, the products are there, a lot of the build outs and buildings, talents there. Yeah. It's the service and it's the culture of Austin, less than it is about having someone who's not doing their job well. Yep. It's just kind of the overall culture, and that needs to step up if that's what we want. And secondly, I just can't wait to hear the term Michelin-starred chef so much more. Yeah.
Oh, Michelin-starred chef is going to be on everyone's resume, right? Pretty soon. So I have a question. So normally I ask this question towards the end, and I've always asked it different, but I'm going to ask you if you had a Mount Rushmore of pastry chefs.
Okay.
4. Can't include yourself, right?
I can't include me?
No, you can't. Okay. So Mount Rushmore, 4 pastry chefs, American.
Okay.
4 American pastry chefs. Who are they?
All right. They are Sam Mason.
Yep.
They're Alex Stupak. Mm-hmm. They're Michael Lyskanis. Mm-hmm. And the 4th's hard. There's a bunch of different people who would hit that spot for me. I'm just going to go people that I looked up to in my generation.
Sure.
And that I was able to connect with in some way, through whether it be through Twitter, through back then we were all exchanging. That was kind of like the way that the door was blown off to exchange information. A lot of it was through Twitter and through food blogs like Ideas in Food and et cetera. But I'm going to go Jordan Kahn. And one thing I really appreciate about Jordan Kahn is, he's obviously so incredibly creative and a technician, but his love for savory and sweet. Mm-hmm. All of these pastries are actually pretty known, but maybe not as much Michael, but Sam, Alex, and Jordan are all known for this like real mind meld of savory and sweet that got me so excited about restaurants, period. I was excited about pastry, I was excited about baking, but when I learned all of this, 10 years in, I was just excited about restaurants because I could see that there were so many possibilities in how to create food, and that's when I started Aducci, and it was awesome.
Sticking on the Mount Rushmore theme, if you had a Mount Rushmore of breakfast cereals.
Okay.
Mount Rushmore of breakfast cereals, what
Okay.
are they? They could be no longer in existence, Chef. That's okay.
Okay. Golden Grams
Good choice.
is definitely on there.
Yeah.
Cocoa Pebbles is on there. I'm going to go Cookie Crisp.
Okay.
And then probably just like plain old school Frosted Flakes.
Great. Where is the
No,
goat? Where's the goat of
great.
cinnamon? Where is the goat of Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
Touche. Have you seen the Cinnamon Toast Crunch churros?
No, is it
There's
good?
a churros fucking cereal,
Yeah.
which I'm not going to put on the list. But yeah, Golden Grams is my Cinnamon Toast Crunch, right?
Yeah, okay,
it's
fair
basically
enough.
the same cereal,
Yeah.
but without the cinnamon.
I mean, Cinnamon Toast Crunch for me is like, you know which one I think is highly underrated? Like, when I was a kid, I used to always look for it in the aisles, but I could never find it, right? Because I grew up in El Paso, and it's like we didn't get all the good shit, right? Was like there was Frankenberry, there was the chocolate one, Count Chocula, and then there was Boo Berry.
Blueberry, yeah.
We could never find the Boo Berry, but they had the best commercials as a kid. So I was like,
we
where
did.
is it? Apple Jacks I would put on mine too.
Oh, Apple Jack. I loved Apple Jacks. Do they still make Cookie Crisp?
They do.
Cookie Crisp.
Yeah, I used to love that one. They had the best Saturday morning commercials for cereal,
did,
right? It's
yeah.
like, fuck, I used to, nothing,
And all the
nothing more.
toys, no more toys in the boxes. I mean, I think that's another like real turning point of our society is when the toys stopped coming in cereal boxes.
We could probably fix most of the world problems with toys in cereal boxes and Saturday morning cartoons, right?
Fuck
Just
yeah.
like,
that is the soundbite of this podcast, please.
yes, yeah. Like I just want to wake up. I want to fucking eat my cold bowl of cereal, right, with milk or water if we were broke, right?
I eat dry cereal. I
Yeah,
had a milk allergy, so
and watch. I mean, I don't remember what I used to watch on Saturdays, like Bugs Bunny cartoons and fuck. I mean, anything was good on Saturday mornings. I tell you what, I remember once when I was a kid, I had my mom call the TV station because Scooby Doo went out of order. And so it was supposed to be like the part 2 of whatever Scooby. It is like it didn't happen. So Mom, you got to call. In retrospect, she probably didn't call the station. She's like, oh yes, let me call them for you. Like,
oh yes, station manager. That's hilarious.
So sticking on the same greatest ever. If you had to list your greatest hip hop ever, like,
Okay.
So I want to know first. Let's start with greatest hip hop artists all time.
Artists, and so this is singular artists that are part of a different group, or could it be a group?
You could have a group. So you could have a group or an artist.
Okay, all time.
All time.
So we're not breaking this into generation or.
Let's do generation then. Let's say
Okay.
let's say we'll make it simple. Before 2000, after 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before 2000, we're gonna have to go first and foremost De La Soul. And I almost want to say Native Tongues because they're the family that created this sound of music that was so incredible and so innovative. And that is Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, and Black Sheep, which are 3 of my top favorite hip hop artists. Mm-hmm. And there's 9 albums there. There's more than 9 total, but 9 that I can think of that just kind of changed my life between those 3 artists. And there's a little bit more of the Native Tongue family, but those are like the top 3. So if I could cheat and put them all under one umbrella, then I would put them.
But if you had to get
if I could meld the 3 of them to give it a super score, they would be number 1.
Okay.
Then after that, I'm going to have to go as far as innovation and changing the genre. And this is what I think of. I think of innovation and genre changing when I think of best. Okay. Right, for me. Those are my metrics, right? That's the merit which I go by. And I'm going to say Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
Because there are other amazing artists and even members individually of Wu-Tang that were inspired by other amazing artists that weren't genre changing. But together, the style of music and the even though it was a short gap, this reincarnation of the supergroup, because supergroups existed a little bit before that, when you had like Leaders of the New School and some of these other supergroups, this was a genre-bending, innovative project in music that went on to be one of the I would say everybody agrees, one of the greatest
Right.
hip hop projects of all time. Now, some of these other people have been inspired by other artists, so it's not as much genre changing, but Nas, just lyrically and flow and just putting together the stories in the way that he does, to me, again, pre-2000. But he has a lot of inspiration from some amazing rappers, Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, things like that. Then I want to go over to the West, and again, genre changing. I'm going to go big macro Project Blowed. In the Project Blowed, there were groups like CVE, Freestyle Fellowship, and these other groups. And then the other one on the West Coast would be Hieroglyphics, and that was like Della Funky, Homo Sapiens, Souls of Mischief. These groups, for me, completely changed the genre as well. Now, I've already hit 5. So I can't, it's hard because I'm also a Southern guy.
Yeah.
So there's so much Southern rap. And I'm going to go Texas rap first, which is different than Southern rap, but inspired most of the Southern rap.
You got to say Scarface.
Well, we got to say UGK and Ghetto Boys.
Ghetto Boys, right?
Right. And then we also, which is a huge inspiration for groups like Outkast, 3 6 Mafia, etc.
Right.
Outkast, again, genre bending, genre changing innovation.
Hold that thought. We got 2 minutes. We could probably go over like 2 minutes. So
I
want to get to
I will talk all day about hip hop, so cut me off.
No. I want to finish this because I'll cut it to make it look like this interruption didn't happen.
Yeah.
Just give me your post 2000 boom boom boom, and then I want to finish off with the PSA questions.
Okay. I'm gonna go post 2000. This is controversial, man. But again, we're going genre changing.
You're gonna say Drake?
Hell no, I'm not gonna say Drake. We're gonna go genre changing innovation.
Yeah.
Love the art, not the artist. I'm gonna go Kanye. I'm gonna go M.
Yep.
I'm gonna go Kendrick, J. Cole. I don't know enough about hip hop after 2000.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna go. How about favorite instead of best?
Yeah.
I'm a huge Donald Glover, Childish Gambino fan.
There you go.
But I wouldn't put him as GOAT.
So, for the people that listen to this podcast, you got a lot of young chefs and cooks that are looking for great advice. If you had a chef's PSA out there, what would it be?
I'm going to use a little bit of a kitchen pun. Pare away all the fucking noise. Pare away the $120 aprons, the need to have 7 different blades. Focus on the fundamentals, right? Learn that. Get to the point where you're rocking those aprons and you're buying those blades. But first, focus on the fundamentals. We need to go back to that. It is so easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing and what everyone else has that you think you need it too, and you lose focus of what you're there for.
If you could look back on your career and you think, what's one thing that you learned later on in your career about the industry or about yourself that a young cook right now listening could benefit from, what advice would you give them?
As a chef, one thing that I would have changed is I would have eaten more and I would have listened more.
What do you mean eating more?
So I would have spent my time and money rather than spending it on going out and spending it like going out and drinking specifically, or buying the things that I didn't need. I would have spent it on going and having meals in restaurants where there was not only something to learn technique and artistically, but there was a story to be told, and I would have listened to that story, and I would have been inspired by other people's stories to find my own authentic voice, and then to put that into my art or food.
And then last question: if you wanted to identify talent, we've talked about lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
How do you identify talent now? Like, what's something that you recognize in cooks early on that says, okay, that person is standing out in the kitchen?
First and foremost, it's how they walk. You can see it in the walk, and that seems so silly to somebody who doesn't really know our business, but I think you understand what I mean.
Yep.
And it's purpose driven, and you can see the purpose driven. You can see the purpose drive when someone walks in your door, and I know pretty quickly. And if that person continues to have that purpose driven movement throughout the shift, I know they're probably going to be good. It's also this that same mentality of paring away all the noise and just being there. You have a notebook, you have a pen, you're on my list of somebody who is there for a purpose. you can tell if you're hiring cooks or servers or carpenters or tile workers. You can tell when someone is purpose driven, and when somebody possesses that, they're going to do well. It's in the body language. It's in the language as well.
Chef, thank you so much. It's great to see you as always. Where can people find you?
You can find me at my restaurant most days, Comedor, here on 5th in Colorado and Austin, Texas. You can find me online. I have a website, chefphilipspear.com, and then on the main social media I use is Instagram at philipspear, 1L, 2 E's.
All right, Chef. Good to see you. Thanks so much. It was a great talk.
Thanks, Jeff. That was fun.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.